Open session, she coming now? Okay.
Talk slower.
Yeah. The first thing on the agenda, the next thing on the agenda is taking positive steps of service award presentation.
Yeah, so today I have the honor of recognizing a collection of community groups that have been very valuable to the Lodi area since the pandemic began. This group of community leaders came together and ensured that all families in the community were provided with an opportunity for additional food security from March of 2020 until the present. For the majority of the past 10 months, the group of organizers provided weekly mobile food pickups outside Lodi Elementary School and OSC for community members, often distributing 20 to 30 pounds of food per family per week. The line of cars for this opportunity often stretched for blocks while community members waited in line for distribution. In addition to the pickups outside the school, staff from Cobussen and volunteers from Reach Out Lodi distribute over 100 food packages weekly to community members not able to make it to the mobile pickup site. In addition to that, the previously recognized Lodi chapter of Blessings in a Backpack also assisted with providing food on weekends for families. All of these groups also paired with district food service staff to provide companion food to what the district was providing. These groups of people ensure food security for all in our community. It has been an amazing collective effort for our community that we should celebrate. At this time, we'd like to recognize the following groups and representatives from their organizations. First off, Reach Out Lodi, Jim Schmidlin and Mary Wilkes. You guys would come ahead. Jim, so it's not volunteer work anymore. You got 1,000 grand. Right there.
Oh, wow. That'll buy a new van.
Steven, you want to take a picture? All right. Anything you guys want to say?
Go ahead.
Well, we couldn't do it without the school district, Second Harvest, and all the volunteers that join us. So we probably have 24 to 28 volunteers each time we do this. And it's just amazing because they drop everything and come and help no matter what the weather's been. So it's an honor to be a part of it.
Well, we're both honored by all of you. This has been a challenge, to say the least. During the pandemic, we have increased the number of people that we serve by at least 65%. In the school district itself, which is our primary boundary area, we have served in the last 5 years 535 families. Now that's not on a regular on an ongoing regular basis. Our kids and the other 1,000 are adults. So we've been having a very tremendous impact on the community, but it's only touching the surface, especially during pandemic when fathers lose jobs, mothers lose jobs, people are furloughed. People are hospitalized because of COVID. COVID has interrupted families in an unbelievable way. Hopefully we're on top of it now, and that this horrible experience that we've all had will go away, but it's still going to take a lot more time. We do expect to have more people, because of COVID, coming to us for help. The help that the school district has given us has been immeasurable. The kids have stepped forward and they've had food drives, personal essential drives. They brought clothing over. The special education group used to come over before COVID to help stock our shelves, to do a lot of other things like vacuuming and things like that. In fact, that turns into a very valuable experience for them, a vocational experience. There are 2 or 3 people right now that are employed, that were in those classes, that are employed at Piggly Wiggly right now. And they love their job. So there's a nice spin-off from that too. Teachers have been outstanding, okay? Vince has been outstanding. Principals have been outstanding. In that they really look out for their kids. Our doors are always open to the schools. If a kid comes to school, a child comes to school and doesn't have a coat, doesn't have good footwear and so on, we get a call. Teachers bring the children over to Reach Out Lodi, and we help them out the best way that we can. Or else we take, like, nice warm coats to the classroom, and the child can try them on right there. So it's been a very, very good partnership between the schools and Reach Out Lodi, and we know that will continue.
Before, can you talk a little bit for people who are listening in, maybe some of the extra things that you've done that other people don't know about, like the freezers and people that are migrants that you help out?
Well, I was gonna talk about the Hispanic population too. The Hispanic population has been increasing significantly. These are people who are excellent workers. They come to our dairy farms. They do construction work. And of course, they're not being paid very much money. So we significantly are seeing an increase in the numbers of Hispanic families that are visiting Reach Out Lodi. Last week, I counted 23. We had kind of a lean week in terms of numbers. 23 families visited us. 17 were Hispanic families. 17 of the 23. And that number is increasing also. So, what was the other part of your question?
Freezers.
Oh, what?
Freezers.
You've got
Oh.
freezers, Elcar, is that donated freezers to you guys? Or
No,
was
we
it-
bought
was
those
it-
ourselves,
Okay,
yeah.
and then you also have a huge shower and,
Yeah, for homeless people. We have a significant number of people that are homeless in Lodi. And they come over from time to time to take a shower because they don't have access to a shower. They might be living out of their automobiles at the present time, or with a friend or with family situation. So we open our people that are homeless don't have to live in the school district necessarily. You have people wandering through Lodi that need help and need shelter. That's Lodi's number one problem, affordable housing. Number one problem. The belly is important, the food is important, but shelter is a problem. I can call up the River Haven, which is a shelter in Portage, for someone who just comes into my office and says, I don't have a place to stay, it's cold, it's this and that. So we try our best to relocate them to a place that can care for them. And then the response inevitably is that, I'm sorry, we got to put them on a waiting list. Now, we ourselves also finance, we have a program, we pony up with the Lodi Valley Suites. So if someone comes in and they need help, we pay the bill for them to stay overnight, or 2 nights, or 3 nights. Rarely do we go past 3 nights. Our funding is limited. But we have quite a few people that do donate money to us, and they specify specifically how it's to be used, and that's how it's used. So, anyway, I can
and
go.
gas cards too, correct?
Yes, gas cards. We help with utility bills. We help with rental assistance. What else do we help?
Car repairs.
Car repairs, exactly. I have a friend who's a very good mechanic, and he does work very cheaply. So, anyway, we're going in a lot of different directions, and we continue to we had a fella come in that a nurse graduate who was taking his nursing boards. He has a very significant disability and hasn't been able to work. And he didn't have the $200 that he needed to take his boards. I knew this son of a gun was going to pass him right away too, and that rarely happens. Usually it's 1 or 2 tests later that you pass it, and that's $200 each time. And he did. He came in just delighted. He passed his boards right away. So but he's still looking for a job because of his personal disabilities. He's unable to really work at the present time too.
So with all these people watching, what do you need from the community?
Okay, what we need from we have a whole list of things, personal essentials, the clothing, personal essentials especially during COVID, when it's very important for homes to be clean and sanitized and so on. You know, bleach is at one time was a very difficult commodity to even find. But that's all improved. But the personal essentials, everybody thinks of food first, and that's okay. I mean, that's good. But they don't always think of personal essentials. So we have a whole list of things that we need as far as personal essentials. When we do the drives with the schools, we specify specifically whether it's out of OSC or whether it's at the elementary school or whether it's at middle school or the primary school. Everybody participates, high school, and we specify specifically what we need at any given time. So, and the churches, the businesses in this community, the individuals, number one contributor are individuals, individual people like yourselves that come in and help us out with the project. This is truly a community project. It's like I said before, it's a very challenging thing, but we couldn't do it without you all. And everybody has really embraced the Reach Out Lodi mission and really helped us out a lot. So,
Well, thank you for all you
comes
do.
from all angles.
Thank you for everything.
Thank you for all you guys do.
All right, the next group I want to recognize is our food service staff. Paula Larrabee, who's here, Karen Ripp, and Jill Daling, who's not able to be here. So if you two would come on up.
It's $100,000. Come on.
Yeah.
Step up.
This is like my favorite candy bar.
There you go.
Thank you. Thank you.
Look at Mr. Rick, he's going to take our picture. So thank you for all you have done as well in helping to making sure we're supporting our kids and again, partnering with Reach Out Lodi and just feeding our kids. Right? They can't learn if they're not fed. And so it's really important. Anything either of you want to share?
Well, this is a very nice award, and kind of wanted to thank the school board too for recognizing the food service group, and working with Reach Out Lodi was a pleasure. It's been 24 years of bliss here in Lodi too, as I'm entering retirement. I miss Karen, but I've got good people at the helm, and I do believe it takes the entire town, entire village, everybody to get these kids fed, so it's definitely a need, and we thank you for your support too. So, how about you, Karen?
Thank you. I will share this with all of our staff. I know they will appreciate it. Probably 2 weeks ago, I shared an email with our food service staff of comments that parents are putting on our pre-orders, and people are so thankful and grateful that we're doing not only the meals in schools, but the community handout and at primary and elementary, we're probably sending home 100 meals a day also, besides what they're getting in school. So they are very appreciative, and our staff really appreciates hearing that. So thanks for everything, all your support. Yeah. We do appreciate it.
Thank you. And our last recipient is Brian Eckler, who I believe is online. Brian was the manager at Cobussen, so has helped with all the deliveries as we work through the pandemic. So Brian, are you online? Maybe not. So, but he was the other person we wanted to recognize as well, because they've been a great partner with us, Cobussen. When we weren't transporting kids, we still have bus drivers who had time, and we had buses, so that worked out very well for us as well, and for the community, for us to be doing those things, so. And a couple other people that are unable to attend was former youth pastor at Lake Wisconsin Church, Daniel Shulgren, and Laura Moon from Second Harvest Food Bank are the other people we were going to recognize tonight, but were unable to be here. So that's taking positive steps.
Thank
So
you.
thank you guys again.
Thank you.
Oh, Mr. Richter has something from,
Paula, we have, this is, I didn't prepare this and I apologize, but Paula, if I could recognize you for your service, the Department of Public Instruction sent us a certificate of appreciation. And I think I have a number wrong in here, but if I could read it. Certificate of appreciation presented to Paula Larrabee in recognition of 23 years of service.
Wrong.
HRB,
Close enough.
to the school nutrition programs at the Lodi and Poinette school districts. Your service exemplifies dedication and commitment. Your diligent efforts have been instrumental in providing an effective school food service program that has enhanced the health and nutritional well-being of children you served. Your contribution is an inspiration to food service personnel everywhere. Thank you, Paula.
Thank you. You're very It has been a pleasure. You know, the last 24 years, I've seen a lot of changes in food service. I think Bill and I started out many years ago with a lot of different changes, and it has been an interesting ride. And I am still doing it in Poinette 1 day a week, so I went from thinking I was going to be fully retired to now semi-retired, but I do enjoy serving the community and the kids, so thank you.
Thank you.
yeah, Paula.
That's all, okay. Move on to public input. Purpose of the citizen input agenda item is for the public to provide comments on any agenda item or to publicly address the Board of Education on items that pertain to school business. The amount of time allotted to each speaker will generally not exceed 5 minutes per person to allow all people who wish to speak an opportunity to be heard. However, the president may modify the time limits at his or her discretion. If the speaker has questions for the board, they'll be duly noted and responses will be provided in an appropriate manner. But the board cannot respond to individual questions or individual comments as part of the public input agenda item. As an additional reminder, the board cannot take action on any item that is brought forth during the public input session or on any item that was not posted on the meeting agenda. Citizen input is an important part of the board meeting agenda, and the board appreciates hearing from the community on issues concerning them and our school district.
At first and last.
I'm guessing we're ready to go on.
You're the opener and closer.
Please state your full name so people online can hear you.
I'm Carla Faust. I am parent of two seniors, Quinn and Connor Faust, who are in there.
What's happening?
Did that fire you up? Probably did. All right, I'm here tonight to thank you, Board of Directors, School Board, for allowing us parents to participate in a basketball season. My time's a little limited tonight because we played tonight this evening. We have sincerely appreciated the opportunity to watch our sons play. My husband and I feel blessed that we were able, during this pandemic, to participate. So I want to thank you for that. But I also want to point out that this doesn't fire up my son when I'm the one yelling, right? Like, he wouldn't acknowledge me or look at me no matter how much I did one of these. And afterwards, I had to say, "Did you see me?" And he just rolled his eyes. So why am I here tonight? I'm here to thank you, but I'm also here to ask you, is as we move forward into a football, soccer season, that we consider putting some students in the stands. To spin off kind of what I'm hearing tonight, two themes came out for me. One was how we need to help our community, how food is in need, families are in need. Well, another side of this, and we've heard plenty of times, is students' emotional health is an area too. A number of my son's friends have stated that if you ask what it is they miss the most, one of the things that they miss is simply sitting in a student section to cheer on their friends. So I think as we move forward, we all know that Dane County loosened some restrictions today and now came out and said that you could have 100 people at an outdoor event. We're not Dane County, but it's something that possibly we can work toward. So I guess I'm gonna request on students' behalf that we kind of take a look in and consider, is there a way we can logistically put some students in the stands for football or soccer? Possibly even we can consider cheerleaders being 6 feet apart. With the beautiful football stadium, not necessarily football stadium, 1 year ago today, thank God, we secured funding. Because if it wasn't 1 year ago today that we went out to our community, and Vince and I did a lot of meetings together, and from the community standpoint, raised $500,000 on our side, and you generously put up $500,000 on your side to go after a beautiful stadium, which will last for future members of our community. So the other theme I heard tonight was community, right? Community that we come out and support each other. And so I guess it's, from my standpoint, yes, I can be selfish and say I have 2 seniors. This has been extremely trying for them. I will also tell you that, and you know this, students are unbelievably resilient, far more resilient than I think adults are. They adapt. If they need to wear a mask, they do. If they need to social distance, they do. So I'm coming to you tonight to plant a seed and to basically say, as we move forward, possibly we can let some seniors in the stand, some juniors in the stand, some grandparents in the stands, to kind of close this out and let them see it. Looking at my notes, I don't think there was really anything because I went way off topic on it. But on the other side of community support, I'll say too that a lot of times we rely on each other, and I just want to give a shout out to our superintendent and Dr. Carls for supporting yesterday, our Lodi Youth Optimist. We raised or served 355 breakfasts in our community that money then goes back to our youth. So let's partnership again. I'm always available. I'm more than happy if it takes parent involvement to say what works best. But again, I appreciate your time. I appreciate what you're doing. I know how difficult this is for you. And just give us a look and see if possibly for a football season, a boys and girls soccer, we can see some students in the stands earning their rite of passage. And that's, as Tyler and I talked, moving down the bleacher, you know, it's like you're a freshman, you're back here. And those seniors haven't had a chance to do that. So just please give us a chance, all right? Thank you. Have a great night.
Thanks, Carla.
Thanks.
Go with it.
Did anybody want this?
That is it for public agenda. We don't have any more. Just one, okay. Next, we'll move on to consent agenda items. Items in this section will be adopted as a group unless a board or member requests a specific item be removed from consent agenda and addressed separately. We have approval of minutes from January 11th, January 27th, board meetings. We have the vouchers, payroll check deposited, account payable checks, credit card payments, and ACH withdrawals. No fundraiser requests, no fundraiser reports, no field trip requests, which is sad. Committee recommendations for approval, we have Chromebook lease, stadium fees, and college credit proposal. There's nothing under other. Under resignation and retirement, we have high school special education assistant, fifth grade teacher, primary school special education assistant, middle school education assistant, second grade teacher, primary school library assistant, high school science teacher, and reading specialist. And then we have primary school educational assistant. Nothing under co-curricular, nothing under crew program. Under regular staff, we have, these are hirings of primary school, elementary school health assistant, special education assistant for the transition program, middle school special education assistant, contract tracer, and a director of technology. Under personnel other, we have leave without pay requests and personal improvement reimbursement.
Let's see, I will make a motion to approve the agenda as presented with the addition and approval of Douglas Gold as special education assistant, but then I would like to have removed for discussion the Lodi Stadium fees agreement and the college credit request.
I'll second.
Motion by Stephen and a second by Shelley. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So they pass 7-0, and we'll have a discussion on those two items. So let's look at the stadium fees first of all.
Yeah, so this item went to the the Facility and Finance Committee. And the reason, as I stated in here, that we looked at it right now is because of Dane County. As you just heard Carla Faust talk, that they are starting to allow sports in Dane County as of starting this coming Wednesday. But prior to that, we've been getting requests to use our stadium. And obviously, we want to make sure our Lodi students use it first. But we also feel some obligations to some of our neighbors. Waunakee has been very generous, allowing us to go use their stadium, so we wanted to make sure that we had that opportunity as well. So we looked at other agreements that other schools have who have turf fields and other fees that places have, and then we put together a fee schedule based on that. We are also going to look back at all of our fees and bring that back to the Policy Committee first, and then Facility Finance at some point, but we wanted to make sure this was in place because we didn't have anything in place when we do get calls and requests. So I'm open to any specific questions you may have about this.
So because you went out and looked at all the other stuff, these are the fees that people charge for a stadium like that in this area?
Yeah, so like for example, we looked at other places, they charge about $100 an hour for the stadium to use it. We looked at event managers, that we have to have somebody there from our staff who's going to be there. Most places had $30 an hour. We added, we're going to have somebody there a half hour before you get there and a half hour after, right, to make sure that that time's there. Custodial setup and cleanup is, again, that's kind of a price that we came up with. And same with the daily supply charge. And these are higher than what we have in our other fees. But we will come back to the policy committee and raise these to be, when we get all of them together, right? We just felt that those had to all get bumped up. So these are significantly higher than what we currently have for our other facilities.
Even though overall, these are very low fees.
Oh, yeah.
My first
Yeah.
comment was way too little.
Yeah,
Because
so-
people online aren't hearing that what these
Right,
fees
so
are.
the piece of it, again, one of the charges of our district is we want people to use our facilities,
Yes.
right? We want them open, we want to make sure we use it, but we also want to make sure that we are, we're recouping the cost of cleaning and those different things as well. So that's where these fees come in. Like when you look at the daily supply charge, it's a group fee of 100, it's $30. It's toilet paper and paper towel type of things. It's not the cleaning, it's just those supplies and things like that. And as the groups get bigger, that price goes up. So again, what I would ask is for approval of this, and then we will bring this all back to the policy committee. And we will bring everything together. So if they want to adjust it at that point to match other places, we can do that. Because I want it to be across the board so it makes sense. But it's been a long time since we've looked at our fees for using facilities in this district, and we want to make sure. And pulling the PAC in there as well. The PAC is probably the most up to date, but there's still areas that we need to look at as well to make sure that that's all up to date.
And then attached to this stadium rental agreement stuff is a laundry list of rules and
Yep.
procedures that have to be followed
Yep.
in that stadium because it is unique and different.
Yes, and that, we looked at, we had to sign that agreement when we went to Waunakee. It's very similar. We looked at Soft Prairies, we looked at Lake Mills, we looked at Mark Farland's. So we looked at other places and added a few things of our own to it as well, but that's a pretty, again, standard fee. Like can't have, no inline skates, no, you can't have gum, you can't have seeds, you can't, different things you can't have. And obviously when we work with people who rent it, or our own kids are using it, making sure that they're following that, because we want that turf field to last as long as possible and take care of it as best we can. So.
Do you have to,
Go ahead.
add anything, this is minor, but it says if
the Lodi group's not going to run the concession stand, the school renting it can, do we have to add anything in there about damage to the concession stand they're responsible for? Just because it only specifically says to the, I don't know how much you can damage in the concession stand, but.
They can damage anything.
Right.
It's just a lot of equipment.
I would think that that'd be covered under our insurance, that our insurance would be.
Well, and I have to look at our other policies as well. So I'll take a note of that, right? Again, I would ask for the approval of this, and then we'll go back, and if there's a piece that, because some of this other pieces, like there's nothing in here that talks really about insurance, well, our other policies cover that. Like if you rent it from us, you have to have insurance, those type of things. So trying to get these all to flow together, but we wanted to make sure this was, because we've been getting calls, so we wanted to make sure we had this in place. But then that brought the issue of other fees and things like that.
And then the other note is that by opening that stadium up to a larger community, you're bringing more people to this community, hopefully to spend money on other things
Right.
and allowing our students to run those concessions for those other events and bringing
Yes.
in that money also.
So we talked about that a lot when we did our
Yeah.
stadium fundraiser, right? When we, as a district, especially that first year, when we had our homecoming game over in Wanakee,
Yes.
you know, Rex's innkeeper had a huge sign that said, "Home of the Blue Devils," right? And it was packed. And our downtown was empty.
Right.
And people had dinner, for the two schools that played there, ate there, had dinner there. It was a big deal for their community, right? And a big loss for our community.
Right.
And that's the idea, is to have this. It's one of the reasons we put lacrosse lines on it, right? So we could rent it out for maybe a lacrosse tournament this summer and bring people into our community.
Yes.
Which would benefit the district, but also benefit the greater community as a whole.
Yeah.
People stop at Quick Trip, or they have, you know, a couple hours between games, so they go to the Bats and the Belfry, or the Nancy's Floral Shop, or other places around town, and spend money. So that was the idea behind bringing that stadium here. Instead of having us move games, we can bring more into our town. Now, obviously with COVID, that changes it a little bit, but that's long-term what we're looking at. But even with COVID, you bring some families in and stop and get gas or buying some things in and on the way out of town. All benefits our community.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the stadium rental agreement and fees as presented.
I'll second.
So a motion by Stephen and a second by Shelley. Is there any further discussion on this? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. Next is motion on college credit proposal.
So, in looking at this, what we are looking at is, we have a possibility, or our business manager has told me pretty clearly that he's planning on retiring in the next, 3 years or so, right? And the concern that we have is, in talking to colleagues around the area and in talking to the director of the business program at UW-Whitehall, where all the business managers go to, get their credentials from, there are very few people going into that profession, and a lot of people who are retiring and leaving out, so there is there's a concern about the possibility of how we're gonna replace that position down the road. If you were looking to replace a superintendent 3 years down the road, you will have plenty of quality applicants to choose from. But the business manager position, there just isn't as many applicants. So one of the, thoughts as you walk through this is, how do you grow your own, right? Is there someone in your organization that would fit that bill, has the characteristics, has the background, that you possibly could grow your own? That's something that we haven't done specifically that way here in Lodi. We've done it for other things. When we've seen things that we think are really important for our district, we've spent money on that differently than we have. So this is different than we've typically done for reimbursing for staff or any things of that nature. But it was an opportunity that we saw to try to, as I said, one of my roles is to try to prevent problems down the road, right, and look into the future. I see this as a potential issue. This is one way we could solve it. There's other ways to solve it. And I guess I open that up to discussion at the board, and obviously Brent can kick in with any questions you may have of him as well.
So this current proposal doesn't fit into the policies that the district
Right.
has right now. This is a different
Yep.
precedenting setting thing.
I'm so sick of the term, look outside the box, but
Yes.
that's what it is, right?
It is outside the box.
We've been living outside the box with
What we're
COVID
good
all
at.
year long, but it's just a different way to look at things.
And I would disagree on the precedent thing. I mean, that's another term that's overused a lot, is just because you do something once doesn't mean it's always gonna be adopted that way. That's why you create policies, and policies are the things that then govern by what you do. And I think for our own, there's a couple different things. There is this the right thing to do at this time? That's one whole discussion. But there is, I think, a bigger discussion about, can we as a district take extraordinary steps to do things that we feel are important to the education of our children and the operation of the district? And this board in particular, at least over the last 6 years that I've been on it, and even some before that, has always taken those opportunities. That's why we have a discovery lab now. That's why we have a tech fab lab now. That's why we have a football stadium now. That's why we've kept a lot of teachers that have looked to leave the district that are good teachers in place. So I think I would lose the precedent setting thing, because we can do extraordinary things when we need to do them. But that's a separate conversation from, is this the right thing to do or not the right thing to do? If we decide it's the right thing to do, it's because we're protecting the district. And yeah, that's all I want to say about that. As far as, is this now the right time to do this? I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
It's a little scary out there. But, you know, and will things get better or worse because of COVID? Don't know, right? I'm a big one for this district, just like a lot of companies, has a culture. And the people that work for this district are kind of ingrained already with Lodi pride, if we want to put a name to it, if we just want to say the way we do business. And I gotta say that the way we do business, and what I mean by that is the business, the accounting, the budgeting, it is done well. So well that when we went through a transition of a couple of business managers, it went smoothly. Audits always go great. We're doing things by the book. Financially, between the board and the business managers, we have been able to put the district in fairly decent financial lay of the land. And so my vote would be to grow someone from within, because once you bring someone from outside, depending on how qualified they are, they may want to come in and change the whole system up. And our system's not in need of change. We don't have a broken, it's much like when Vince came in, we don't have a broken system. We need people that will move the system forward to the next level.
From where we are.
From where we are. And I think that usually where, if you have an organization where you can do that, where you can keep people within the company, the business, the school district growing, that is ideal. So, again, yeah.
There's a number of reasons why we're going down this road. One of the things that was triggered in my mind was our neighbor to the west is doing the same thing. They're pretty worried that my successor in Sauk Prairie, when she retires, there's going to be a void with who's going to jump in there. When I interviewed over there, there were very few candidates, and they were extremely pleased to have somebody who was coming in with 14 years of experience that was willing to take that jump. There wasn't many people behind me. As a matter of fact, there was very few, and the one that was behind me, that was number 2, he walked out in the middle of the interview and he said, "I don't want this job." And so that was a better scenario than what you're looking at in the next few years. So they decided to hire somebody into an accountant role, a young person that is in the community, and grow that person into a business manager. So when Kathy leaves over there, they're putting her through the program, and then she will transition into that job. So that's sort of what triggered this thought, was we're going to be faced with about 10 or 12 of my colleagues in our area all retiring within about 5 years. And so there is going to be a major domino effect in the business manager field. And according to Diane Pertzborn, very few candidates. And the ones that are in the program, very to little experience with schools. The greatest thing I ever did in school business management was I ran the payrolls in Argyle. You don't know a district until you run the payroll. So once this person took over the payroll, that set the stage for the ability that she will have to be a business manager. So that's why, part of why, those are a lot, main reasons why. And I think she'd be a very good business manager, strong business sense. So I think that whether or not you approve this tonight, this person will be outstanding down the road as a business manager. No doubt. No doubt. Much better than me. And very good in the field. So it's just, I think it's a good step, but it's your call.
But what might not be clear to everybody is that in order to hire someone in Brent's position as a business manager, you must have this certification to get there. So that you have to be that, right? And you have to have some experience. And then for us, what we want is school experience in that.
Yeah.
So all three of those things. And that's the rarity.
Yeah. My role comes with, I'm the only other person in the district that can run this district other than the superintendent. I can sign off on
Right.
everything that the superintendent can sign off on. And that's a safety measure that the state law put into place in case Mr. Browning would get in an accident. He couldn't be here to do his job. And so that's why you maintain the certification when you put somebody in this role. Otherwise, you put a business agent, but that person doesn't have the ability to sign off on the documents and submit legal documents the way the superintendent does. It doesn't give the business manager the same level of authority. It's just your backup plan in case something happens to the superintendent.
Right, it's in some ways a very specialized position.
Yeah.
What's the, oh, sorry.
No, I would just like to comment that with the scarcity that we may, of candidates in the future, it may be a situation also where we would have to hire somebody to help us find that person, which would cost the district money to go through that process also.
Right.
So, and that could add up to easily over $10,000, which would be almost half of what is being proposed here to grow this person into that position.
What's the time frame for this? So, I see it's almost a 3-year program, but
Yeah, I
when would
think-
she start, like, if we have to decide tonight?
I think she would start in the fall. My window is I'm 53 and a half. 57 I can retire. I have aging parents that I would like to spend years with. So that's sort of a window of my time. Maybe I'll go a little longer, but 3 to 4 years I would think would get her through the program. So, and obviously she'd have to win the interview, but I don't see a lot of candidates. You went through this 2 years ago, and your first round produced nobody, and your second round produced somebody who left. When I talked to that person after the first year, I could see the frustration in his eyes. It's very difficult. These small districts like these, if you don't wear all the hats and you don't do them fairly well, you don't survive. You just leave. You just go. That's the hard part of this job. It's just not the same like the superintendent job. They're just extremely difficult, and all the jobs are. But people just don't leave when you can go. You look at all my colleagues. They go to Barrett, they go to PMA, and they make $40,000 more a year. I mean, that's what they do. They just leave. Madison came open a couple of years back, and I called the business manager. I said, hey, I'm maybe looking for the next step. He says, don't come here. I strongly advise not to go there. So it's just a tough job, and I think growing your own is possibly your best option. Otherwise, you can roll the dice and see what's out there in 3.5 years.
So, this position would need to be posted though, no matter what, right? No matter what we did as far as growing a person in, so.
The law doesn't say you have to post.
It doesn't.
That is just a courtesy. That's just something that's standard procedure.
I think it's something that should be done.
Well, I guess what I'm getting at is, so if the district were to pay for this educational program, the person would come out of this with a degree, a $23,000 degree, and could take this position, could not take this position. Would we be requesting or requiring, a 5-year commitment so that when we paid for this degree, that was for sure what we would get? Otherwise, why wouldn't a person just go and take out the loans, go get the degree, better yourself, position yourself to be in that next stage, and to then also try to position yourself so that you're gonna stay, if you wanted to stay within the district, that you also then have this credential, you could go out into the world. So, also, like, what is the pay differential between what this person makes now and the being hired as a business manager? This makes this well worth it for that person personally to do this program. And I would feel better about, I don't know, I just, like that, like, if a person really wants to do this, that's coming from them, and you pay for that tuition because it's a great investment in yourself. I just have a concern about it coming from the district, and the district paying for that, and for the I get it, I understand that there's a big concern about filling this position, but it's also a theoretical that we couldn't steal someone away from a different district when we're trying to hire. We might have to pay quite a bit more than we would like to, but there's people out there. It's, we might have to pay them a lot more than we would.
We might end up paying this every year to steal someone.
That may be.
But if they're all within 5 years around us leaving, where are we gonna steal from? You're gonna have to go
Right.
to a different part of the state.
I'm just saying it's three.
It's definitely theoretical.
On one hand, it's
I agree.
proactive.
Right.
On the other hand, it's a theoretical. And I think, paying for the degree is, I struggle with that. It's not paying for some classes to learn certain skills.
So the one thing I do want to make clear is, for people who are watching, this person did not come to us asking for this. We went to them, right? And talked them into, like, we think this would be good for you and good for us. So, as I can see people at home going, you mean someone came to you and asked for this? They didn't, right? So that's a difference piece. But I also agree with you, Angie, that it is, I can argue both sides of this issue easily, right? Is it protecting the district down the road? Yeah, hopefully. But you're right, it's a theoretical. You don't know who's gonna show up at your door when you post a position, right? You might find somebody who just would love to live in Lodi, Wisconsin, and is just waiting for that opportunity because it's where we're located, it's on the lake, it's a beautiful, beautiful area, you're close to Madison, but you're not in Madison. You may, right? One of the things I know I emailed a staff member today, my piece is, you can hope for that. I don't like hope as a strategy. It's not my favorite strategy to use. We use it. There's no question about it. I hope a lot when COVID comes. We talk about COVID a lot. So my job is to put stuff in front of the board, to be proactive and see things. And then it's your job to determine what level of risk we want to take with that. I understand both sides of this issue, and that's why it's here in front of you to have this discussion.
Well, if we don't have to post the position, I was thinking, I guess that we did. I would say that if we went down this road, then there would have to be an agreement of a certain length of service following this program. Otherwise,
So currently, this is conditional that if the person does this and then doesn't, and leaves, then they would pay back. But you're offering a secondary condition to what's currently in there.
I'm saying, if we were to pay for this, then we would expect a 5-year commitment after graduation, so 8 years from now.
I'm with you.
Adam,
Yes.
I appreciate your business foresight. This is something that we have done in the past, in other situations like this. Having come on the board in the 90s, our culture was different here. Our principals would stay 1 to 3 years, and then they'd use us for a stepping stone to move on. And we as a board at the time, tried to figure out what we could do. If we couldn't compete on the financial end, what could we do to grow people? And in Lodi, we grow people, not just kids, not just teachers, administrators, everybody. There's an expected part of your job is to keep growing. One of the things that we've done is put education in place for our teachers, for our administrators. We have a number of administrators in the past that worked toward the credits to become a superintendent, whether they stepped out and did that job or not. We always feel like we get that back as a school district when you get better quality people. So for me, I gotta smile a little bit, and this fits in with the culture that we put into place to where we grow Lodi.
So in this room are 3 examples of what you're talking about. So Tyler,
Yes.
we grew. Vince, we grew. Joe, we grew. So,
We kind of grew Nick.
yeah. Sort of.
He was young at the time, but
Well, and
It exactly proves what you're saying.
if I'm not mistaken, Brent, don't you have the credits to be a super?
I'm a few off, but you did approve my doctoral program several years ago.
Well, that's us growing people, and that is what we do, but the thought process to put a business plan in place, to create a contract to where a person, if they were offered the job, and that's one other thing I wanted to bring up, there's no gimme here. That person would have to interview for the job. I promise you it would be posted. They would have to interview for the job and be the best person available. That's how we do it.
So if they weren't the best person available, then we've spent $23,000 for nothing.
That's a no. That's where you send this to the policy committee. You have them or the contract committee, have them put their thoughts in place to go through the different scenarios as to how you recoup that investment.
So what I'm hearing is we should table this and get more information to make this go forward in some other way.
I think we should, because I'm not opposed to growing people.
Right.
I am saying that this is, I think we should think about this particular instance
And we
more.
need some pretty strict parameters around it, I think.
Yeah.
So it sounds like a
So
table.
do- so
It
do
sounds
you
like
want-
somebody's motioning to make a table.
I'll make a motion to table this to
Okay.
the next board meeting, full board meeting.
Okay.
I'll second that.
So a motion by Shelley and a second by Angie.
What I want to hear is that which committee are you sending it toward to do
They didn't request that, so.
contract or policy or?
So you want to clarify, you want to send it back to admin and then they decide where they want to do with it? Or
Oh.
you want to send it to a committee?
Maybe,
I think admin's gonna have to have some direction.
Oh, definitely, yes.
Yeah, admin has to be
Well,
involved.
I think admin is hearing, seems to be hearing what our discussion
Concerns
is
are.
about. Yeah, and it's, it's protecting the district in a variety of ways.
Shelley, would you mind
financially
sending it
and-
to the contract committee?
What?
Yeah.
Would you
let's
mind
do that.
sending it to the
I
contract
would be
committee?
so mad. No, that's fine, yes.
Okay, good.
That would be fine.
So you're going to amend your,
I'll amend my motion to send that to the contract.
And I agree to the amendment.
thank you. Any further discussion on that? Okay, so it will be table, well, we have to vote on it,
Set.
but the motion is to table it and send it to contract review. Okay?
Yep.
So, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? 7-0, so it goes back.
Thanks for the discussion, I appreciate it.
And thank you for thinking outside the box, much as you don't want to hear that. We move on to the full regular agenda. First, we have the alternate fall sports season.
Yeah, so this is on the agenda, because you asked it to be back on the agenda. We voted last time, or you, I should say, you voted last time, to allow for the alternate spring season to start. But again, just knowing that things change with COVID, you wanted to have it back on the agenda. So I will let, I know Joe is here and Jason Marshall is on, and I believe Sue Effort might be on as well, just to brief update how things are going and any questions you guys may have for them.
As you guys do your discussion, can you loop in, we had a limit of 2 people, I believe, per family. And now this is an outdoor sport. What do you think about that rules as you go forward?
Okay, sounds good. So I'm Joe Jelmick. I am the principal at Lodi High School, and this is what I look like with the mask. Normally I'm on the screen. So we really haven't thought about too many changes since our last meeting. Our winter sports are kind of winding down. So the wrestling season is going to end with a state tournament with 3 athletes that are going to be competing this Saturday. And that's at Adams Friendship, so it's not at our normal venue at the Cole Center. Girls basketball regionals is this Friday at Richland Center, and then boys basketball is going to complete their season next week. I think we talked about this a little bit earlier, or our last meeting, that they've been doing a really, really good job. The athletes have been wearing the masks like they need to. They've been social distancing. We've been sticking to that 2-person rule at events. I think you heard from Carla that there have been some people that have asked us about upping that as far as our spring sports and potentially having more fans, especially at outdoor events. So that is something that we definitely are going to continue to have conversations about. We did say that once we approve this, and well, we talked about it, and then the school board kind of approved us moving forward, is that we'd have further discussions about changing things if necessary. We thought they could work. I did want Jason to talk a little bit about some of the COVID numbers for winter sports and what that looked like, so I'll let Jason speak to that just a little.
Yeah, so we really have not seen a significant number of COVID cases. We have somewhere between 8 and 10 student athletes who have tested positive for COVID. Those obviously, sort of the way that we designed our sports season is that groups were potted, so out of that came some quarantines. But we really haven't seen substantial spread between athletes when there's been a positive case. I think that does speak to our athletes' ability to follow social distancing and masking and some of the protocols Joe said. I think that our fans have done a really, really good job of following the expectation that we've set. I've had some conversations with some parents. That isn't the case at every school, and we certainly see that in some of the away fans that we get. One of the challenges in all of this is that different schools have different expectations, and I just think that our student athletes and our coaches and our parents have done a really good job of following through, and it's created safe seasons. I will say to also speak to Adam's question a little bit about increasing that number. I think that the first thing that we would need to do is to go out to the stadium and see what we could do as far as a ballpark number to social distance people. I think we had a conversation about that today, and really looking at what our maximum number would be in the gym, because do we want to continue to do the things that have been successful with social distancing, masking? So I think that would be our step one, is to see what our capacity would be socially distanced out of the stadium.
So I think you missed Jason saying that the WIA had said that during regional basketball games, if you're hosting, you could have up to four fans.
Okay.
And we are going to stick with 2 because that's what we've been doing, that's what we're used to. And it's been working out really well, and we feel like that's the safest option. But again, I think Jason, you cut out just for a second, so I don't know if they heard that. But we are going to do some measuring just to see exactly what we can fit in the football stadium. But again, we're not talking about 12 athletes on a team. We're talking up to 50 or so athletes on a football team. And if you allow 2 parents per athlete, you can do the math. So it's going to be a little bit more difficult to try to get more fans in, but we're going to definitely look at it.
Let me jump in just a
Yeah,
second.
go ahead.
So there was a meeting of the football conference only superintendents, and they have at this point voted to only allow 2 home fans and 2 visiting fans to games at this point. Right, all these schools are schools that did not have football in the in the fall, and are concerned about spread. So not that we can't look at it as the season goes on, but as the season starts, that is what our football-only conference has decided was 2 home fans and 2 visiting fans apiece.
Even though they're all playing outside?
Yeah, again, I think the issue is what Joe was talking about, you have 50 to 60 kids on a sideline, so now you're talking 120 kids, or 120 parents, right? To put them on one side, or and then you have the other side, right? They may have 120 parents, well, they may not all fit on the other side. So again, socially distancing, to start at least, and seeing how that looks.
Yep.
And then that's the possibility of now wrapping that up. It's easier for us to kick it up
Yes, exactly.
than to start with 4 fans and then cut it back to 2.
Right.
Right, so, I'm not saying that we wouldn't look at that as a possibility, I'm not open to looking at that, but that would have to go back to the football and conference, right? Because just as Jason got done talking about, we wanna make sure we're consistent across the conference, so our fans know exactly what they're gonna get when they go to Edgerton, or when Edgerton comes here. And we wanna make sure that's consistent across the board. Now, this is just for football only, right? Soccer might be a little different, right? There's not quite as many kids on the sideline, right? So now you're talking, so we could look differently at different sports. I think we'd start the same, again, 2, but then look at that possibility. The concern with bringing students in is, it would be awesome, right? We want our students there. But everything I've talked to with other administrators, it's really difficult to keep our students apart, right? They come in, you spread them out 6 feet, somebody else steps in between those 2 kids who just spread out 6 feet. You spread them back out 6 feet, somebody else steps in front. You know, it just kind of morphs into a student section.
Right.
That's a student section, they're on top of each other constantly. And only crazy adults go in there, like myself and Mr. Jelnick, or now Mr. Marshall.
A sporting event is very different than a cafeteria or being in classroom or.
Yeah. So again, I understand Carla Faust talking about that, because it's not the same, right? You go to an athletic event, it's awesome seeing the kids play. It's disheartening to know that you can hear a pin drop, right? And you can hear the parents breathing, I mean, almost, so. But I just want to let you know where the football conference has voted. So they have made kind of that decision where we're going forward, at least to start the season. So.
And I was gonna say, Jason talked about a little bit, the inconsistencies from one school to the next. Not that there's a huge inconsistencies, but that's caused the greatest issues that we've had when fans have come to our events. Our home fans have been great, they understand exactly what they need to do. And a vast majority of visiting fans do a really good job, and if we request that they don't drink in the gym, they don't drink in the gym, but there've been a few issues. And you know, you heard Carla speaking tonight. She's not the first person that has approached me about the potential of some of our students being able to go to these games, because if you've ever been to a high school event, you know all of the energy is in the students. I mean, that is the biggest thing. I know there's a lot of students that really look forward to that and that were really upset, not about school closing, but I'm not going to be able to be that senior in that student section. So we hear them, we understand, and I think potentially, you know, football would be difficult because there's just a lot of parents that are going to want to be there. Soccer is a different animal, so you know you only have maybe 15 kids on a team, and potentially that might be an opportunity for some kids to come in. But we have to have some of those discussions further down the road. So.
Well, and if guidelines change, right? So Dane County's guidelines just changed. Do guidelines change outside what they ask for social distancing? That's a possibility, right? So as we're learning more, that's the part we'll talk about in our next agenda item, like social distancing. If they change social distancing to 3 feet, it's a game changer for us as coming back to school. It would be a game changer for us if they said, you know, we need to have 6 foot social distancing, but outside, you could go 3 feet because if you're masked, because of, airflow, because of, so again, something that I think we would consider, but I don't think we would start the season that way.
Jason, I don't know if you wanted to add anything else, or?
No, I think you guys covered it.
Just a comment, would it be possible to add bleachers, like in the zones or something, or?
So that would be a
rent
possibility, right?
bleachers?
We would have to put bleachers, we have to put them outside.
Right.
Right, so that is one of the concerns, right, is why some schools did allow students in, because students showed up. And they had their field to be butted up against to a street. So then the students would stay on the street, and the school couldn't really do anything about it. Our stadium is far enough that we control everything around it,
Right.
but we would have to look at putting bleachers in an end zone. I don't know where we'd get them, but like if you know, again, trying to spread people out, that's a possibility, because we couldn't, obviously with turf, we don't have room to put them anywhere else
Right.
inside. But it's a possibility, right? When we first started, working in this conference, you go to Poinette, that's where the students sat, was behind the bleacher, or behind the goalposts in Poinette, right? They had, like, the fairground bleachers, the wagon ones, like, you know, we could look at the possibility of something like that and do some sort of lottery and things of that nature. The hard part's like, even that, is how do you spread kids out 6 feet? You know, it's tough, like, you know, it's a 6-foot circle, so it's really difficult.
I do think, though, kids have shown us tremendous maturity and the ability to follow the rules put into place, much more than I ever expected.
Yeah, I would agree.
So I do think if there's the opportunity for like soccer to have kids there with knowing the rules ahead of time and knowing like that privilege could be easily lost, I think there are kids that could step up to the plate to make that happen and even help each other out to make sure like they're not losing that.
I think one of the things is we put expectations in from the beginning. So it wasn't like, how dare you tell me 9 months in that I can't go here or do this or do that. And I think it's been, in my view, it's been very, very steady. Because some people talk to me a lot because I'm old and I've been a teacher here for 1,000 years. And I'm always glad to profess the fact that, look, we've got these rules in place and they're in place for your protection. And that's all there is to it. So.
I like the extra bleacher idea, but we have to be careful because like we just spent a lot of money to update our bleachers. There are a lot of regulations,
Oh, yeah.
requirements around.
Yeah, we would absolutely have to have a
Yeah,
conversation with liability.
First thought is we could roll the fairgrounds ones in there, but I bet you we can't.
No.
Not those.
Bunch of people taking them down from the streets, yeah.
But we could look at other things, right?
But there
Look
are
at
bleacher
softball
rental
bleachers,
companies
but
and things like that, yeah.
right? We could, it's something we could explore.
Yeah.
And again, the other issue we're gonna deal with is, we're playing in early March, right? It's snow,
It's
right?
snow.
If there are many piles of snow there. Especially the way it's going right now.
Then you don't need bleachers.
That's
Sit
true,
on the
just put them
snow
up on
bench.
snow, on the wall.
Start piling the snow up like a bleacher.
Carve the snow.
There we go.
You mentioned our football conference.
Yeah.
Now, we were supposed to go into a new football-only conference this
Yep.
past year.
Yep.
So does that conference that we were anticipating in the fall exist?
Some of it, not all of it, right? So example, Lake Mills and Lakeside would have been in our conference. They played. So everybody's playing pretty independent. We were pulling some stools from the Rock Valley, Bigfoot, Lloyd Turner were coming to us. Well, there's other schools in the Rock Valley who also didn't have football. So we're kind of joining some schools from the Rock Valley Conference. Columbus is with us as well, but some schools from the Rock Valley. So the schools.
It's gonna be a very unique season.
Yeah, so it's Lodi, Columbus, Edgerton, Clinton, Bigfoot, and Lloyd Turner. Yeah. So some of those are similar schools that would have been, Columbus would have been in, Lloyd Turner would have been in, Bigfoot would have been in, Edgerton wouldn't have. So the athletic directors have done a phenomenal job of, Sue Meffer's done a great job, and so have other athletic directors, of trying to figure out, okay, who hasn't, who's played, who hasn't, and when the music stops, can we get enough games? Right? So they worked really hard at that. As she mentioned last time, so for middle school volleyball, that hasn't worked out well, so there's not really games to be had. But for football and varsity volleyball and high school volleyball, there is games.
So there's no action on this, right?
No.
There doesn't need to be, no, it is, again, you guys had just requested that we bring it back and put it back on the agenda for the next time.
Okay.
Any further discussion, questions?
That's it for item 1 on the agenda.
Reopening?
I see the clock. 2020, 2021 school reopening plan discussion.
Yeah, I just thought we'd have just a brief update on how things are going in each of the buildings. Amy Fossbender, if you want to kick us off from the primary school?
Absolutely. Well, I'm so excited now that I finally feel like a real principal. Now that we're back into the building and things like that, I'm really impressed with how the students are following the safety measures. I appreciate all the families, what they've done to help, teach their kids how to wear a mask, teaching them about the social distancing. As I walk through the building and see that, definitely the safety measures are in place, and I'm so grateful for the partnership of our families. As well as the screener that the families complete each morning before the students come in, making sure that the kids that are coming to the building are healthy and safe. It's really helped us a lot at the primary. And then the staff, they're doing a fabulous job of trying to really prioritize the instruction for the 2.5 hours that the students are in the building. So the kids, they come in to get breakfast or lunch, and then they dive right into literacy and math and writing. So it's really been extremely smooth flowing, and again, it's just because of all the great staff and partnership with the families. So.
Great, thanks, Amy. Any questions for Mr. Pisani?
Hello, everybody. I would echo some of what Amy said and say that the staff has been fabulous. So, months of planning, changes and rechanging and revising and revisions to finally have it come to fruition and to see kids back and to see kids, doing what we asked with 6 feet apart, social distancing, hearing staff have kids so excited to be back in the building, kids being excited to be back in the building. We are doing that same screening process throughout the district. So like Amy talked about, each morning our students are sent to screener. So we're asking families to symptom monitor kids. Families have been real helpful with that. We've gotten really creative with our pickups and drop-offs to keep numbers small and to keep groups small. We've divided up our building into quadrants to keep groups of kids just in their quadrant. And all of those mitigation strategies have seemed to be working. And like Amy said too, the kids are happy to be back in the building. It is, it's quick, but everybody's grateful for being back in the building. And while it's quick, it's still daily, which was one of the challenges with the old model, is that we were gonna have a much harder time keeping the online kids and the in-person kids, keeping them paced in the same way. So overall, it's been really awesome to have kids be back in, and we're very grateful for the opportunity and are using every moment of it to our advantage.
All right, Mr. Prozich.
Yeah, similar themes to what the others have mentioned, but I believe blended instruction and in-person instruction's really gotten off to a good start for us. The procedures and protocols we put in place are working. Students have been fabulous. I echo kind of what Barb said. I mean, it's been much better than probably what I anticipated. Not surprisingly, our main issue is social distancing in the hallway and at dismissal time. But besides that, mask wearing and other things have been absolutely great. Students, for the most part, I think really enjoy being in the building and are appreciative. Parents as well. I would be remiss if I didn't agree with the others and just give a big shout out to the staff, because they have been phenomenal. And the big thing moving forward is just to continue to be diligent, keep reminding kids. Obviously, as people get more comfortable, they may let their guard down, but we can't do that. So, but very happy with how things are going.
And I'm gonna a segue is about staff. Staff at the high school, it is a very difficult job. I was just in the classroom this morning, and there was a huge amount of kids, 10 in one classroom. We all know that at the high school, right now we have about 57% of our kids still online and about 42% of our kids that are in person. So you cut that in half, we're talking about 21 to 22% on any given day that are in the school. And I talked about this in my bulletin that I sent out to parents last month, that the energy of the school has everything to do with students, and it's really hard when you don't have a huge population there. The kids that are there are doing a tremendous job. I was mentioning that the teachers are doing a really good job having to teach mostly to kids that are at home, and then having those kids and making sure that they're giving those kids attention as well that are in front of them, whether they have 10 kids or they have one kid in front of them. But the staff has done a tremendous job. Students are doing a really good job. I think some of the students are a little frustrated because it is not what they imagine high school to be like. I have gotten some emails from parents thanking us for allowing their kids, even though I didn't really allow their kids to come back to school, but giving them that opportunity. Mostly freshman parents that were very happy that they could eventually, or they could finally get into what they knew high school would be like. So it's been going pretty well.
And just overall, I would like to say, and just like everyone else, thank you to our staff has worked phenomenally hard and done a phenomenally great job. But I would take it the next step. Our administrative team has been unbelievable. The amount of time and effort and meetings they've had together to collaborate and push each other back and forth. That is why this transition went as smoothly as it did, because of all the time they spent with staff, and staff coming up with great ideas, and our administrators pushing each other to make sure that no stone was left unturned. So obviously there was, just like any other first day of school, there was some minor issues, but the transition has been very smooth. So I just want to thank all our administrators, building principals, and district office staff for all the work that they have done. And then we're still looking at next steps, right? So right now, as I mentioned the last time, when we talk about social distancing, that's really the big hurdle, right? If you move us down to 3-foot social distancing, we can start maybe talking about more kids coming back. It's hard for us to imagine kids coming back without, because we can't do it with 6-foot social distancing. We just don't have classrooms big enough to spread our kids out far enough to make that work. So either we would have to make that decision that as a district that we're not going to follow 6-foot social distancing, or that change has to be made at the DHS or CDC level. There's some talk about it, but that movement hasn't happened yet. So that's kind of where we are right now. We will start having more. We have been starting to have those conversations. We will continue as we move, as we get, starting into February here. Before you know it, we'll be at the end of the third quarter, and again, we'll be re-asking parents where the model they want their child to be in, and looking at models. So that'll be a bigger discussion at our next board meeting.
Yeah. Even if we got vaccinations tomorrow, it's still a good 6 weeks delay before you're kicked in and safe.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Vaccinations, I've been trying to keep our staff up to date on that. We're trying to work closely with Sauk Prairie Healthcare, Hometown Pharmacy, anybody else who is willing to have a conversation with us. As of right now, we've had different staff members vaccinated through Sauk Prairie Healthcare if they've qualified under Tier 1A. Or we've had some who are 65 years or older than have qualified. But now as we look at getting to that March 1st, there is, that's going to be another big push. And as of right now, I don't know if that March 1st deadline is reasonable. I wish it would be. I mean, we're going to do everything we can to be ready. As I will state, if we have to close a school for a day so we can get our staff vaccinated, that's what we will do. To make sure that happens. It's a concern is that second day, that especially at that second vaccine of people being ill. If I have 15 or 20 staff members go out of a building and get vaccinated, that could cause a major issue for the following day. But we just don't know. It's a supply issue, and we're going to work closely to try to get our staff vaccinated as quickly as possible. So hopefully we can move back to normal as quickly as possible. The other issue that I have in here, I just wanted to reiterate, is the face covering recommendation, or requirement. When we put this agenda together, one of the things that was obviously being talked about at the state level was the repeal of the governor's mask mandate. It was repealed. He came back in and made another emergency order. It's back in place. In September, we had this kind of conversation. We didn't have to rely on this. So the board approved a face covering recommendation, which I have included in board docs. I would ask the board to renew or approve the new face covering recommendation, because one of the things that we did leave out last time was transportation. So I would ask the board approve that. So we're not reliant. So if the state senate and assembly and the governor are all battling wherever they go, we have a requirement here. It's very steady and clear.
I'll make a motion to approve the new face covering recommendation as presented.
Second.
Motion by Stephen and a second by Shelley. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, what is the new face? We haven't said.
It's right there.
Just
I know, but
transportation,
to the-
so
Oh,
when you're on the bus.
It's the exact same thing, it's exactly what he just said. It says, it's added,
Adding
I can read
transportation.
it. The school district Lodi will require all staff members, students, and visitors age 4 and older, including parents and guardians, to facilities owned and operated or on transportation owned and operated or contracted by the district, or in attendance at a district-sponsored event or activity, wear face covering. And then there's other things in there, but that's really the meat of it right there is, everybody's required to wear a face covering while at school, unless they have a medical reason not to, and then they need to let us know, and we will work through that with them. So.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. Next, we have the strategic planning process.
Yeah, so again, we've talked about this at this board meeting, and I've shared more information about that. The district is starting a strategic planning process to look at how what are our community's priorities for our district. As our facilitator put it so well, I thought it's like looking at, 3 years in the distance, 5 years in distance. It's getting that DeLorean and pushing a button and getting 20 years ahead, seeing what's our vision for what Lodi will look like. And bringing our community to do that, because it's not the board's district, it's not my district, it's the community's district, and trying to get those priorities. So our board has spent the last couple of Wednesdays meeting with a facilitator, mapping out the community, and reaching out to people. So just thought it would be beneficial, 2 things. One, the board members can just kind of talk about that process a little bit and the excitement that that's bringing. And then secondly, I think it would be very beneficial for the board to formally adopt the charge for our Vision and Elements Study Team, which is a team of community members that we are recruiting to plan a strategic planning event. And so we tried to map out the community, find people who had vested interest in the school district, who would help and facilitate that program. Because we don't want it to be the administrative team putting this together, because then the feeling is, well, the administrators are just gonna get what they want, right? So it's really, again, truly we wanna know what the community's priorities are.
I'll make a motion that the Board of Education approve the following charge statement for the vision, elements, I'm fogging up.
Study team?
Yes, study team to develop community event culminating with a presentation to the Board of Education that will engage all stakeholders in the process that will inform the development of the vision and mission for the school district of Lodi and guide the school district's decision-making for the next 5 years.
Second.
Motion by Shelley and a second by Bill. Further discussion? So this strategic planning of committee of about a dozen people will get a very large group, if possible, together to figure out what the district is gonna do over the next few years and long term. And that's the real beauty. So that part wasn't really clear, that it's a much bigger event that this smaller group is gonna plan for everybody to come together.
yeah, and I think it's important that anybody can come to that bigger event.
Yes.
But there will be specifically people invited so that we get people there, but anybody can come to it. I think the exciting thing is that, and we talked about this a lot in the meetings that we had, the community really needs to have the vision for what the schools should be like. We are elected to basically guarantee that a quality education is provided, but we need some guideposts by which to do that. And this district in particular does very well with policies and procedures, and we follow those things, we refer back to them. We know where we can deviate from them if needed, and we know where we need to stick to them. This will be just another tool that will be used for the administration to develop a strategy to move forward, and then for both the board and the administration to govern and maintain over the next several years. So it really is an opportunity for the community to get their voice in. What type of schools do they want to have in the future? And that's exciting.
And there will be meetings coming up that people can come and be involved in if they choose to. And if people have, we're just starting this so that we do this every 3 to 5 years. I think I've been on, 3 or 4 committees throughout my tenure here. to be in the strategic plan. So it's really neat to have different people come out and do what we feel is best for the school district in general.
I would say this hasn't happened for at least 10 years.
Yeah, it's been a while, since we've had it. And I would say the other piece, that, again, that this smaller group is going to plan over the next 3-4 months to bring back, as you said, a bigger community group, a big community event. That's what they're planning, is how we get the community together. And that will happen in late May, early June. The idea is to have this done by hopefully the July board meeting. So that's kind of the timeline we're on moving forward.
Hopefully on a nice, warm spring day outside.
Yeah, absolutely.
Outside without masks, that would be even the best.
Everyone vaccinated. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. The school calendar is back before us.
Yeah, so I have the school calendar here for next school year. One of the conversations we had at the contract review committee was the possibility of adding in either earlier, late starts or early releases to have more consistent planning. We started with surveying staff. Staff did not like that idea at all. And we also surveyed them on a lot of other different pieces of the calendar. Several different, there's only so many things we can do. Like we can switch around the beginning a little bit, we can like a day here, a day there. And so we came up, this is the calendar pretty much we had started with and staff liked the most. And so it's a very similar to what our calendar typically has been, start with September 1st, spring break, the end of March. And so I just would ask for approval of the calendar for next year.
I'll make a motion to approve the calendar for the 21-22 school calendar year.
I'll second.
Motion by Shelley and a second by Angie. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. Next, we have the food service contract.
Yeah, so I am going to turn this over to Brent here shortly. Just as, obviously, we honored Paula Larrabee here tonight for all her years and her retirement at the end of December. So we have been in a process of looking at food service vendors to help manage our food service program. We had it's a very extensive RFP process driven by DPI. And so we went through that process. We had 5 companies submit bids. Brent and I reviewed all 5 of those, selected 4 for interview, and had an interview committee. A couple board members sat on that, and went our way down to a couple that did reference checks, and came down with 1. So I'll turn it over to Brent.
Yeah.
You led the process, so thank you for leading the process.
Yeah, so, this is all triggered, of course, by Paula Larrabee retiring. And so what a wonderful job she did here. And, as you can see, it was really awesome to work with her. I talked to her about her replacement, and what would be some options. And she actually endorsed the concept of a, management company. And she said that, actually what we did was we had a further discussion about it, kind of looked at their stuff that they could do and those sorts of things. And she was intrigued by it. She knew a little bit about it, and she basically said, my days are really built around managing people and then just doing the nuts and bolts of this job. These kinds of companies, they have the ability to bring in that value-added stuff that you can give to the kids and to the staff. And you can see in their RFP, those are things like kiosks and food carts and kids in the kitchen and farm to table, all the stuff that Paula dreamed about for a lot of years, and her and I would have these discussions about that, but yet then it was go back to the grindstone of managing, day-to-day operations. And so that really triggered the process. That at least in my mind, set the stage for, let's travel down this road. We brought that to the finance committee, I believe, and had the further discussion. And with some of those sorts of, variables and thoughts, and they said, let's move forward with looking at this. The next step is a very formal 72-page RFP canned template document by DPI, highly regulated by the Department of Public Instruction, led also by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. So this stuff, when I got that document, extremely overwhelming and intimidating. Basically, it was filling in numbers, and they told me who it had to be sent to, 16 different companies.
Wow.
And so I put on this memo the timelines, some of the things that we're responsible to do during the, responsible for, such as scoring and weighting these things. I did not come up with any of this information. It was all on the RFP, totally canned. And so, and as a matter of fact, even before we could make an offer, bring it to you guys, DPI had to approve it and tell us who we were gonna, you don't all know that, but they had to actually tell me, you can offer it to this group. And so, which happened to be who we also chose, thank goodness. So, and I had never been down this road before with RFP. I did not know it was like that. I had many RFPs before, big ones too, but this was very unique. So the companies were great, all of them were great, but some rose to the top based on the RFP. Based on the interview, what we saw, certainly the foundation blocks of any of this are the director, the willingness of the director to be able to implement these value-added things that we are hopeful for and that we are absolutely going to push toward. Speaking of my timelines, one of the things that Vince and I talked about was, me kind of dedicating the next 24 months to supporting this director, getting this company established, and bringing products that, the reason that we actually have a food service management, on board to do those kinds of things, food carts, kiosks, maybe a coffee shop, I don't know. We'll explore, we'll look at it. And then they can also bring all of the things that they can bring to a team, such as further training, which support from a greater entity, corporate level chefs or executive chefs. They have a chef in Wanakee that will support us, that kind of stuff. Menu planning, high level dietitians, doctorate level dietitians. And so we're really excited. The contract formally is 5 years, but every year it's renewed with financial guarantees. This company is guaranteeing us a return of $50,000 this year. Certainly that is a template, and we have an ability to look at that and I think talk to them about, more here, more there, whatever, and change that number a little bit. But generally speaking, they are guaranteeing $50,000 back to us. All the companies were guaranteeing something. I'm rambling a little bit, so I'll let you go on with the motion. But it's an important piece. I'll just kind of finish with, it's an important piece because we've had a decimated fund balance in food service. And so that was, I scored that with Paula's guidance. Paula led me on this too, with 25 points out of 100, financial guarantee. So a major category. I rambled. Questions?
I think one of the biggest things is that it's handmade food, not dumped out of a box food. That's a huge night and day difference, right?
As much as possible, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
There's a whole big, because even during the interview process, first of all, we learned a lot through it, at least Julie and I think, learned a lot through it. Everybody else probably knew it. We were kind of the new ones there. But there's also, there is some concern when we first look at this that, can we do this? Can we expand the menu? Can we do these special things? And not all of these things will happen, especially not in Lodi, because we may not be so, take a coffee house in the high school. Sounds like a great idea. 10 kids are going to use it, right? But they may try it and see if they get more than 10 kids to use it. The point is that it's for them, it's a business. And just like any good restaurant, you get business because you provide good quality food, great service, and atmosphere. And all of these companies that we interviewed really push that. And their job is to make revenue not only for you, but for them. So if the menu items are out of line, they're not going to be able to maintain that. So I think part of this is we have to give them the ability to come in, make some changes, try some things. And that's one of the things that Taher was really upfront about, is like, we'll try anything. We'll try it, we'll see if it works. If it doesn't work, we'll pull back on it. So moving from in-house, which was definitely something that we could have continued to do, we definitely have great staff, and Paula did a great job training people that could take this on. But again, in our effort to grow and to, you know, continue to push this and drive it forward, this seemed like the best opportunity. Our staff is still gonna be there. It's still our staff. And in fact, several of the key employees will still continue to work for us and not for Taher. But they have the expertise, and the other thing that we learned is, you know, the Brent knew regulatory in this thing is massive. How Paula was able to do that, and like you said, that was all she was able to do. They have like a staff of, I forget what they said, it was like 10 to 15 people that all they do in this area, that's just in this area, is meet with a DPI, meet with the federal people, and get these regulations sorted out so that the person managing our facility doesn't have to worry about that.
Yeah, makes sense.
They can focus on building relationships with the kids, providing meals that are good and a wide variety. So I know there's a lot of apprehension about doing this, but I personally think it's great for us as a district, and I think it's going to be great for the students, which is the main reason for doing it.
You notice there's a big teaching and learning component in here also, where they said they could offer expansion of menus to different cultures in different countries, and then come into the schools ahead of time and say, here's a different way of eating, a different type of food to eat, here's where they eat it and how they eat it, and then giving those kids that food to experience a whole different world. It seems amazing.
So, I don't know if Dan Wolf and Jim Madden, I know, are online, both from Taher. I don't know if you guys want to add anything?
I take back everything I said.
Wait,
Well, I just wanted to start by saying thank you for considering us, and we hope that the vote will go our way. And like I've said many times to Brent and other folks that we encountered along the way, we're family owned, so we don't answer to a board, we don't answer to investors, we answer to our clients. And we've been in this area for about 40 years, and we're very excited about the Lodi community. We're not coming in because you did something wrong, or you had a very good leadership, and it's a good time to, with her leaving, make that change. So the gap, we've seen much larger gaps coming from self-operated to being run by us. So we're very excited about the opportunities here. Jim and his team are going to take the ball once the vote is in. They've already got some steps planned out, and we're just excited to be a part of this and hopeful that you guys will vote us in.
Yeah, and one of the conversations we had with Taher was a transition. Like, man, we're transitioning. Like, they're going to start March 1st. And one of the things that they've shared was, that works really well for us, because usually at the start of the year, we're transitioning a bunch of different schools, and we can put all our resources right now to Lodi, because you're the only one transitioning right now, right? So it works well to kind of, and also kick us off for the beginning of next year as well, so. They were great to work with, and as Brent said, all the food service companies were great to work with, and they just rose to the top.
I'll make a motion to approve the Taher Inc. Food Management Services contract.
I'll second.
Motion by Stephen and a second by Shelley. Is there any
Easy for you to say.
further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. Welcome aboard.
Thank you so much.
Well, Dan and Jim, now get ready to work with Brent.
Be on the phone tomorrow.
I'm good, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Look forward to working with you.
Can't we just come to school and eat lunch?
And I just want to give props to Brent for, this was a fast timeline working with DPI, and we went through a lot of information, and I really appreciate the effort and time he put into it, because he's got, as you know, a lot of other things on his plate. And he did a great job, and I think this will be a good thing for our students in our district.
Yeah, and just reading the one proposal that we had to read, it was like, holy cow.
That wasn't even the proposal.
You know what I mean?
That was just the PDF.
I can't imagine.
Vince has thanked me like 12 times for this, but at the end of Friday at 4:30, he had 5 of those things. He said, "What did you just get me into?"
Yes.
They had to be done by Sunday.
Right.
So Vince really put a lot of effort into it. Honestly, I missed a lot of things first time around, and Vince actually did a picked up a lot of things, so thank you.
Well, it helps to look at, yeah, two people always cover that stuff.
It's nice that the next agenda item is approving the contract.
Well, at least for now you're doing something.
There we go. So the next agenda item obviously is Administrator Director contract extensions. That's what typically what we do in February is we look at extending our administrators and our directors starting as July to the following year. So when we hit July 1st, they have another 2-year contract going forward. We haven't set any of the financial pieces, salary pieces. That'll come later when we do all the setting of compensation for the entire district. So I would recommend we move forward with those extensions.
I'll make a motion to approve the administrator and director contracts with 1-year extension through June 2023 for Mrs. Fossbender, Mr. Pisani, Mr. Posick, Mr. Jelnick, Ms. Loken, Dr. Carls, Mr. Richter, Mr. Marshall, Mr. Rival, and Ms. Carls,
I'll second.
with compensation levels to be determined prior to issuing a formal contract.
Motion by Stephen and a second by Shelley. Should add with great gratitude to all of that. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. Thank you for staying with us.
Thank you.
No first policy reading, no second policy reading, and no gift and donation. We move on to administrative reports. Student Representative Nick.
Yeah. So again, not really a ton going on. So fall sports will be starting up soon. I know, like, I'm in soccer, so we're starting to plan our indoor practices. And then students are just starting to settle in for their in-person and online days. I guess, like, walking through my schedule, Tuesdays and Fridays I'm in school, and then Mondays and Thursdays I'm virtual. And then winter sports are just wrapping up with regional, sectionals, and state, just depending on all the sports. And then I just wanted to mention, too, with being virtual, snow days, it's nice, because then, well, I guess I don't know if it'd be nice, because we'll still have school, but I mean, I guess for we won't have to make them up at the end of the year.
So how do you feel? Can you give us a perspective about being in school? Because 42% didn't.
Yeah.
42% did. 57 didn't.
I definitely agree with, like, it feels emptier than I thought it would be. Like my first block class, sorry, it's just me, and I'm in the library, and my teacher's virtual, so that's a little lonely. But my second block class is better, and then third block I have choir, and there's more kids in that too.
So how do you guys do choir? Do you keep masks on? Do you take them off?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then we have to, like, let the room air out, so we go to the auditorium or the back half of class.
Well, you have enough room there, so.
Yeah, there's only 6 of us, I think, so there's plenty of room to spread out.
If we didn't have better timing on technology, you could sing in a group.
Yeah, that is a struggle too, because everyone virtual has to stay muted.
Yeah.
So, like, they can hear us, but we don't get to hear them, but it all works out in the end.
Okay, Amy at the elementary school. I'm sorry. It says, they keep changing this order on me on purpose. So it's Mike at the elementary school.
Just to see if you're awake?
Yes.
Mike is awake. I'm here. Thank you for the opportunity. And you guys have my board report. So just some of the highlights are the pictures that we included with kids being 6 feet apart, showing what a blended classroom looks like. I touched on several of the highlights from that part earlier in my update. And we are in the process of doing our mid-year assessments. So iReady is going on right now. And we're also doing some individualized reading assessments. And those are my 2 big things for you, because since we spoke last, we came back blended. So my report is relatively short, but I'll focus on the positives of being back.
Thank you for the pictures, because we're not going to school, so we don't get to see that stuff. So.
Yeah, I thought it would be cool for families to see. The other thing that I didn't include in the report because it's a video and I couldn't is an example of how we fog midday to clean between the two shifts, because I know that people wonder what that looks like. And so I do have a video that I can just send to you guys. I couldn't figure out how to put it into my report, so sorry for that.
Yeah, send it to the board, because we'd like to see that.
Sounds great.
Lodi Middle School.
Yeah, not a lot to add to my report. I did include a bunch of pictures for you, so I'm glad you like those. Adam, you mentioned about field trips earlier. I did highlight in there, we have some virtual field trips going on, so we are adapting that way. Some cool things. There's also a nice little note there from a Reedsburg parent. Again, rather applicable to what we discussed tonight, because away fans are not allowed in our stadium, but yet Mr. Wallace and the girls basketball are live streaming the game, so we are at least trying to provide that to parents away, and the same thing when our girls are away, something our parents can check in on. So not much more there. I talked to you last month about some of the cool displays that Ms. Baxter has done for us, and included some pictures there, and not only cool but very educational and things that we're utilizing in the building.
Yeah, they were very nice. So the virtual field trips, I teach around the country, and it costs money to send me to different places. And with COVID, I've been teaching around the world now, and so you can get high-level people in different parts now, easy, because we're not doing anything in the United States, so we should do more virtual stuff.
High level, it's Adam.
Yeah.
Let us know the next time you want to do something. I remember when you came in.
No, I'm not. I could do it, but I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about there's people all over the world, not just sitting in their homes.
There's no doubt that there will be.
Waiting for opportunity.
There is some positive that's come out
Yes.
of this. There's been a number of things that I think people have realized that they can do a little bit better, a little bit more efficiently, and some things like that. So not all negative, certainly.
And then the high school, we're here too.
And I would agree with Joe. There have been some things that have come out of this pandemic that have been advantageous, like the ability to schedule parent-teacher conferences and not to necessarily have them in front of you, but to be able to do a Google Meet, because it's very convenient for some parents that can't make it over to the high school or any school to be able to do those things, which has been nice. I'm just going to hit the highlights here. First of all, on the first page there, I mentioned all of the teachers or even community members that have allowed our students to keep doing some of the things that they've done in the past, whether it's a winter sport or co-curriculars. I'm not going to name all of them, you can read that, but these are the activities that we are trying to continue to do at the high school, because co-curriculars are so important. You mentioned something about pictures. I made a note, I need to send more pictures to the school board. Audrey Parpart, who is a parent, has been almost every single athletic event taking pictures and sharing those out. We've shared some of those on social media, so I really appreciate Audrey Parpart and some of the pictures that she shared. I do want to mention our guidance counselors. Last week was National School Counselors Week. So Emily Hendricks and Grant Lemke, who just like everybody have had to overcome a lot of barriers this year and do things differently to make sure that students are getting what they need. So I really appreciate them. So they were recognized last week. We did have our freshman open house. We were able to schedule close to 45 families that came in on January 12th and January 14th, freshman families to be able to walk the building. They're very appreciative of that. I wanted to thank our link crew and our link crew advisors, Mrs. Kurska and Mr. Schnell, for helping me find the link crew kids that could come in and help with that evening. And then just recently, we had our 8th grade scheduling course information night, which usually happens at the high school in the Performing Arts Center. And we were able to do that virtually. Mr. Marshall, Ms. Lemke, or Mr. Lemke, Mrs. Hendricks, and me were able to run that meeting and answer any questions that 8th grade families had about scheduling for next year already. So we were able to do that virtually. We had 54 families that joined us that evening, which was great. So again, what Joe is basically saying, there have been some things that have made it easier just because we've been able to go virtual. So that's about it.
And then sadly, no Thailand exchange next year.
Yes, so yes, of course, some of those things which have been staples at the high school and have made our high school very unique and one of the best high schools in the state as far as I'm concerned. some of those things are gonna have to fall to the wayside for now, so.
But there would be a possibility of spring for Thai students coming here next spring, maybe?
I would hope so.
Or German.
I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, just to
Right.
kind of see what it looks like.
The door is still cracked open.
I think so, I think it's cracked open.
Do you think there may be a chance of having the Southeast Asian Studies class taught virtually by,
Marco?
No.
Kruchat?
Kruchat, yeah.
Yes, we're hoping so,
Mhm.
yep,
That'd
for
be-
sure. And I know he's had some
Yeah, he
health
taught it
issues
this-
as of late, so it's been Mr. Fossbetter, JP Fossbetter
Mm-hmm.
that's taking it over for now, but yes, we're hoping to get.
Yeah.
I thought Chot was gonna retire. Don't we think
He
that
says that
every
every
year?
year,
Yeah,
so,
I thought so.
He still loves teaching our students in the Southeast Asian Studies class,
Yeah.
so.
He needs a replacement in his country to take over for him.
He needs a replacement plan.
Yeah. Maybe the board could put together that. Okay. We good? Curriculum, sorry.
Absolutely. So I'll hit the highlights just as the gentleman did. And at the top, we have hourly reading interventionalists, and this is a position that we would potentially, if we can find somebody, look to bring the board. It would be for about 16 hours a week to serve at the parochial school at Blessed Trinity. We are obligated to serve that school in some capacity because of the federal dollars, the stipulation with the federal dollars that we get. We have to share some of those federal dollars that we get to with Blessed Trinity, and so we would have the opportunity to, in conversation with Blessed Trinity and knowing what their needs are, we would have the opportunity to serve them by hiring this hourly reading interventionalist. The thing about it is, with the federal dollars that we get to support Blessed Trinity, we are not able to just hand those dollars over to Blessed Trinity and say, okay, hire your own person. It has to be somebody that we've vetted. It's our staff that serves those students. So that's something that we're looking at, and we'll see if we get somebody. You can see in there traditionally how we've supported Blessed Trinity students who may be in need, and it maybe is something that we want to move away in a different direction as we move forward. So, do you guys have any questions specifically about that part before I move to the others?
The only question is, how long has that been in place? Has that been forever? Is that the last 5 years, the last 10 years, or?
As long as I've been a director, that stipulation comes with the federal dollars. And when we look at it, what's happened is we've not spent all of those dollars, so we continue to kind of pool those or have carryover each year. And so it's definitely something we want to look to spend down, and want to probably look to the future of, this would be short-term for now, but we may want to use this same type of structure in future years if we can get somebody who would be consistent. We would be able to draw down that kind of consistent federal allocation to support in that way. So we have it posted right now on WeCan, but as of now, we do not have any applicants, but we'll keep an eye on that, and I'll come back to you with more information. The next piece is Foundations of Early Literacy, and this is something that I spoke about at, I believe it was in one of my most recent board reports as well. And what we've done is we've taken the first foundational literacy survey from the Department of Public Instruction, which really is a vetted tool that the Department of Public Instruction would like districts to use annually to take a look at their literacy practices, especially at like the primary levels, like 4K through grades 2. So that's something that we have conducted with our educators at the primary school, and they have been absolutely wonderful to work with, the staff at the primary school. We were able to have them take this survey during the PLCs. We got some great information, highlighted a couple of key areas, came back at their next PLC meetings and made some collaborative decisions together around some key points. And we have many more decisions to make, but right now we've made some decisions for the primary school centered around sight words, which is a key piece of foundational early literacy instruction. Also, phonemic awareness is something. So when I'm talking to you and you're hearing me say words as a young child, knowing that those words can be broken apart into chunks or letters, that's something that we have to teach students, and then they can transfer that when they're starting to learn letter sounds and things like that. So we made some decisions about that as well, around phonological awareness and how we're going to go about instructing that component, that key component at the primary level. Next, we're going to start to have conversations about phonics, but we're gonna put that on pause for a moment because we are going to be working with Mr. Pisani and the elementary school staff to also do a survey and utilize the information from that survey to start to have these same types of conversations at the elementary level. The thing about phonics is that's where it starts to jump into those upper elementary grades as well. And so we have to, if we're gonna have consistency within our system, we have to have those conversations happening at both the primary school and the elementary school related to phonics at the same time. So that's kind of the next step. It's very exciting. This is fun work to be doing, talking to teachers about things like this.
I'm glad to see your excitement on that. That's excellent.
And then middle school math is something that we're working on as well now, too. We talked to the curriculum committee of the board about this. The current middle school math curriculum that we use, Big Ideas Math, the company went through a revision of that curriculum. They updated to a new version, and they came to us and said, hey, you should really move forward with this. Instead of just simply moving to the next version, we are really going to spend some time vetting the various curricular resources that are out there and making a really informed decision. And there's a process that we're going through with that. We're looking at engaging the Math Institute of Wisconsin to help us better understand the standards that you've adopted as a board around math, and that we can, as we have a deep understanding of that as a team, we can use that information to choose the best math resource for us at the middle school. So another very exciting conversation that's going on right now.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, so on February 16th at 9 a.m., we will have a community advisory board meeting. And I highly encourage any board members or administration that would like to attend. It's a great meeting. It's very rare that you get that type of group of people together, all the community leaders from not just around the Lodi area, but even around the county. And we kind of take on all the LCAT type issues and things that are doing in the community.
Where is it located?
What is that?
It's online on Zoom. It's in your board packet report. Then the address there to attend it is there. One of the main topics that we will be talking about at this meeting is where does LCAT go from here? We have a little over a year left in our federal grant. It appears that no one in the county is going to pick up the grant. We've tried to talk to Portage and to Columbus and to some other areas, and there's just not it's a lot of work to maintain it. And for Lodi, for the last 10 years, it's been outside revenue of around $120,000 a year that we have to match in kind. So it was a big dollar value for our community. That is going away. A lot of, I shouldn't say a lot, but there is quite a bit of work that will be moving on to PARC, which is the Prevention and Response Columbia County, which was a group that LCAT kind of started at the county level because we didn't want to be an island here by ourselves. They get a lot of grant funding as well, but they're not going to go after this federal grant. They're going to be doing the things like the compliance checks and drug take-back days and those types of things. It's the more community-specific stuff that we have to figure out how that goes on. And I think we will probably be coming back to the board in March or April with a proposal of how LCAT continues in the future as part of either the school district or the community. So it's a big meeting for us. This will shock all of you in here, but we are working on another community video. So if you have, since we have to do it remotely, it's going to be kind of been done like several of the last school district videos that I've done, where we're collecting photos and videos that you guys have taken from around the community. So if anybody has anything that they would like to have, or they would offer up to the video, that'd be great. I'm going to say you can definitely contact me, and Mo doesn't know this, but you can probably contact Mo and she can figure out how to get it to me. I volunteered her for that. And then something else that LCAT has done with this grant money that we do is we send to a lot of trainings and symposiums and coming up. I don't have the dates right now, but Paula can get those for you. If you're interested in the Adolescent Health Symposium at the UW Oshkosh, we will be providing the fees. I think it's all online, so you don't have to go anywhere. You can attend it online. But hey, we'll buy you lunch during it too. Paula's gonna be so mad at
Wow.
me for saying that.
Virtually, right?
Virtually,
Yeah.
it's a virtual lunch.
There's a picture of the food in front of us.
Yeah. I've been asked this by a couple of you already, but the YRBS, which is the Youth Risk Behavioral Survey, we'd currently be doing that right now. DPI has put a hold on that. Apparently there are other important things going on. I don't know what that would be, but apparently educators are busy these days. We don't know when that will resume. I have made some phone calls in the past week talking to some people, and we're gonna see if there's other responses. I think I'm probably, based on some of the responses I got, I think I'm the only person calling saying, hey, when can we do this? But hopefully next fall we'll be able to do it. And then some good news, the FACT students were recognized in the statewide FACT newsletter for their work during COVID. I don't know, Nick, do you know, you were in that, right?
Yeah, I kind of take charge of that group.
There you go, see?
Yeah, it's been a challenge with COVID. A lot of the stuff, we did a virtual town hall, just like educating like the community on these products that are coming out. We did a Cups in the Fence, I don't know if any of you saw it, but on the tennis court fence, we did a thing like that. And there's more things, but it's just, because they like give you a set list of like activity, like they're called factivisms that you can do, but it's a challenge because you have to like mend them to how we can do that.
It's all different.
But you guys have done a fabulous, that's why you were kind of commended, is that you guys have done a fabulous job at figuring out how to navigate that and to move things forward. We have a great FACT group here. You guys are probably...
Yeah, we've given a lot of ideas to other FACT groups around the state to see what they can do as well. And our FACT State Youth Board is reconvening, and well, applications are out now, so it'll be like March or April.
You're just giving them the fact. Sorry.
And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Facts, man.
Just the fact, Jack.
Tiffany with Student Services.
Yeah, I just have a couple of things to add to my report. Really just wanted to kind of summarize the section that talks about some of the training special ed teachers are doing and student services staff are doing right now related to moving forward. As I was jotting down all of these bullet points for this report, it really made me realize that even though we have COVID going on and even though we have a lot on teachers' plates, they're still growing and learning and moving forward. And I just think that speaks to the staff in terms of always being willing to rise to the challenge and taking on the next thing, knowing it's best for kids. So that was just one thing I wanted to reflect on in my report.
Okay, thank you. And then Amy is waiting patiently at the Lodi Primary School.
No problem. If here's the pictures, I had to make sure I wish I had a video of Mr. Brining helping one of our 4K students that very first day who almost toppled over with their backpack full. So I had a picture that I of Mr. Brining helping out there. I talked a lot about the teachers or all they're doing for the students in the blended, but I also want to just recognize the online teachers too that have adjusted and just enhanced things from this fall to help support those students that are currently doing online. So I'm really proud of their efforts there too. Literacy, Dr. Carl's mentioned a couple of the things that we are working on right now with phonemic awareness, and then going to jump into phonics shortly. And like Mr. Casani said, we're doing some different assessments, and then we'll do a universal screening meeting after that to really look at the data and determine how we're looking at students that maybe need reteaching or interventions or enrichment. So we'll be diving into that. And then our behavior goal, just working with the students on, really just describing what are those expectations that we have in the school, as well as helping support their social emotional needs as well, doing different things like zones of regulation and all of that. So busy time for sure.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have the district administrator report.
So just a couple things. One, obviously we've had a few inclement weather days. Not always expected, obviously, when either of those days, especially last week, I was not expecting that we would have two. Especially, Thursday morning was a very difficult decision, not knowing when the freezing rain was going to come, knowing that the afternoon would be rough. But I think we made the right decision. And then on Friday morning, getting up and just talking to the county about, the blowing and drifting and how difficult that was going to be. We did not go to a virtual day because we had not shared real clear expectations of what we expected of staff and what we expected of students. Our administrators did a phenomenal job on Friday of getting that information out to our students, parents, and staff, and working with staff to make sure that that will work moving forward. So moving forward, we will be looking at virtual days instead of inclement days, kind of as Nick had brought up, instead of having to make up those days at the end of the year. And we've been virtual before. It's just tough for it really puts a lot of pressure on our teachers because you have lesson plans for kids in person and to flip them to something that's going to be virtual. So it's not going to be perfect, and it's not going to be exactly like it was when we were online, when you're planning for that all the time. But we just figure it's better than kids not having that time. So, and I sent out an update on information on that this morning, just making sure that if we have a 2-hour late start, we won't bring our AM kids in our elementary and primary, but then they will be virtual that morning. And same if we would have a early release, we wouldn't bring our afternoon kiddos in, but we would have them online at that time. I also sent out to all of our parents and staff, just look at the wind chills as we move forward for the rest of the week. It looks like we will be in session. There shouldn't be any delays. The question will be towards the end of the week. Tomorrow morning it was supposed to be minus about 20 wind chill, but typically we're looking minus 35 for us to cancel or delay. So that's where we are with those. And then secondly, I know you commented on Dr. Carl's and Amy also being excited about literacy. That's why we hired them, right? They are excited about that stuff, right?
It's very refreshing.
It is, and it's a really important thing for us to be working on and working with our staff, and that is something that is a high priority for us to continue to work on. There's nothing more important, so I really appreciate their efforts, and again, all our administrators' efforts and all these different things, so.
And then, Vince, you really do give us an administrative report every week.
Yeah, so I don't, right.
No, and it's very valuable. The links that you put in there and the information you put in there keep us up to date on a weekly basis, not a monthly basis. So it's incredibly helpful.
It's really great.
Yeah.
I really feel like we're prepared for these meetings because we have an ongoing, real-time understanding of what's been happening.
Yes.
And also, I will speak for myself, I really appreciate the extra time that you spend on all of this stuff. I can't even fathom, so.
Well, again, you guys have been in a really difficult, we've talked about this, you're in a really difficult position. So the more information you can have to make those decisions, and obviously, as you know, I try to present both sides of almost every issue you have, right? So there's issues that, I talk about the importance of having 6-foot social distancing, and also share an article about why we should move to 3-foot social distancing. So I want to, again, so you have the wide range so you can make the best decisions possible. And obviously I always take feedback anytime on any of the things I send you, if they're valuable or not. And thanks to Maureen, who helps curate a lot of that information as well. So.
But it is very important because we do have full-time jobs, and this is not our job, right? This is a secondary thing we do, and so.
Wait, what? You guys do other things?
I also want to give a shout out to Tyler, who has helped me multiple times when I can't get on Zoom and can't get in, and I also have to bring you my computer because I'm not in on this thing up here. Can't see me, can't hear me, things like that. So I really appreciate Tyler's help, as well as Ann Linkey and Renee Moldenhauer, because they helped me as well. And I got on all by myself on Zoom this week, so pretty proud after trying for a month, so, yeah.
Okay,
That's growth, Shelley.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Board President report is very short. I just have 3 things. So I want to thank everyone for embracing the blended model and making the start of this new world we're returning to go so well. It was very nice to hear all those reports that everybody was excited and there was no, oh, but this happened, oh, but this happened, but this happened. It was great. And then vaccines, I just was in a thing where Dr. Fauci was speaking today, and vaccines are on our horizon and will soon be here. And what he was saying is that they should be available to everyone by early summer. So anyone who wants one will have one by early summer, which is very phenomenal. And then also tonight, I'm really looking forward to using that new stadium that we have and getting to sit in those stands and watch our kids play. It's gonna be, I don't care how cold it is, it's gonna be amazing to watch that happen. So.
Yeah, I agree.
And Vince, I don't remember how many people fit in the stadium. Full, I just don't remember.
I don't know what we'd have, I'd have to think about it.
That's fine.
1,500.
1,500, I would say. That's what number comes to my mind, is about 1,500.
Yeah, all right.
That's pretty tight,
Yeah, that's tight.
you know, and that's people standing around the edges and all those things, so. It'll look empty. It's just like going to a basketball game now. It's, as I've said before, it's really exciting seeing our kids compete, or on a wrestling mat, it's exciting to see our kids compete, but it's also disheartening just to see, it's like us, even for the parents, like, you know, I have a senior son who played basketball a lot of years with these kids. Everybody has to sit with their spouse. Right? And through all these years of going to youth basketball, you sat with kind of the same people, and you know, you've grown up with your kids, and now you can't really even at a game have a conversation. You're just two of you, you know, and it's quiet. But you also can hear everything a parent says at that point as well. But it's awesome that they're playing, and I give again credit to Joe, Jason, and Sue have been phenomenal in making sure that this stuff all works. And following up with people who are not following the guidelines. And that is not an easy thing to do.
No.
But they have been phenomenal at it, and I really appreciate their time and effort, and it's a lot of nights and weekends and things of that nature.
Okay, CISA 5 or rep.
Yeah, so I've been on the CISA 5 meetings. I can get on those easier, I don't know why. And I'm really impressed again with the amount of help that they give people. The Portage CISA is very, very busy. And it's I don't know, it's just been eye-opening for me. And the amount of teachers, and they can pull 2 teachers from here to go there, and I mean, they're just always working, it seems, so. And our last, we were supposed to have an in-person meeting, but it was the snow and cold, so we did not have that. So we're hoping to have the next one. But I've really enjoyed being on the CISA 5 board.
Okay, co-curricular.
The varsity boys basketball team is currently 8 wins, 6 losses, with a conference record of 2 wins, 4 losses. They are 2-1 in the last 3 games, with 2 wins over Columbus and a loss to Lake Mills. They finished the year with a game on the road versus Lakeside and 2 home games against DeForest and Poinette. They have moved up a division to Division II in the WIA tournament this year and are the number 2 seed in their regional. They'll take on the winner of McFarland versus Platteville on Friday, February 19th. Coach Latisco and the team would like to thank everyone who helped them have a safe and successful season. The girls basketball team is currently 5 wins, 9 losses, with recent wins over Columbus and Lake Mills. They are currently tied for 2nd place in the Capital Conference. They were seeded number 3 for their regional in the WIA tournament and will play at Richland Center on Friday, February 12th. On Saturday, January 30th, the Lodi wrestling team competed in the WIA regional tournament. Lodi was able to wrestle well enough to win the regional championship for the 28th consecutive year and 31st time overall. Lodi had Lodi had 5 champions on the day, with Parker Hens, Owen Brining, Chandler Curtis, Zane Licht, Jacob Benson. Dean Finney also placed 2nd, and all 6 have qualified for the sectional tournament. Sectionals took place on Saturday, February 6th, with Parker Hens, Chandler Curtis, and Zane Licht advancing to state. The dance team has continued to perform standalone performances over the past several weeks. On Friday, February 5th, they recorded a performance that will be entered into a dance competition. The Lodi Forensics placed 3rd in the small team division at the Capital Conference Forensics Tournament. What is that word?
Amelia Hyder.
Asynchronous, Amelia Hyder was the conference champion in prose. Medora Richards took second place in solo acting humorous. Nathan Schilling placed fourth in impromptu speaking. Lily Strong was sixth place in prose. Rachel Winters was sixth place in poetry. Amber Schmidt, Michelle Schiller were finalists in prose. Their upcoming schedules include Sun Prairie, February 6th, Sub-District, February 24th, and the Milton Tournament, February 26th. The mock trial competed in regionals on Saturday, February 6th, and Sunday, February 7th. The varsity team came in second, and the JV team got fourth. Both teams did great. Varsity lost a close one, missing by just one judge's ballot. JV's only loss over the weekend were against two first and second place teams. With only 3 seniors graduating this year, the future is bright. Thank you.
And then, how's OSC doing?
Good. I wasn't able to go to the meeting because I was with all of you.
Yes.
But it appears that their main topic of discussion was getting ready for the lottery, the enrollment, and how might they do like a virtual tour night and a parent question night since I can't do it in person.
It's so different. Everything's.
It is, and typically, you know, project night, we try to schedule that
Right.
during that time too. So they'll figure it out. They're creative.
So they're doing projects?
They're
doing projects. They're
right.
not doing a massive project thing.
No.
Okay.
Not the typical project
Right.
that I'm aware of, no.
Right. Which is too bad, because it's a really nice event. Contract review,
We did not meet.
curriculum,
Did not meet.
facility finance.
We met.
You don't
We
get a
always
choice.
meet.
You always get to
We
meet.
meet all the
You
time.
met.
I think we talked about most of it tonight. I don't think there's anything extra to report.
Policy did not meet.
Correct.
Future meetings are on there. We do not need to go to closed session, which means
The only thing I would remind the board is just to make sure you are contacting the community members you were supposed to for strategic planning by this Friday. And make sure either highlight in the document or let Maureen or I know which responses to get back. Right, thank you.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
a motion by Stephen and a second by Bill to adjourn. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned, 7-0.